All right. With me is Justin, Nick, and the captain,
And Ryan
and Ryan. Ryan Reynolds?
Gosling.
Gosling.
Oh, Gosling.
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds. You're going to get some hate for that.
It's like we have the love line going.
Yeah.
We're going to start this thing in like 20 minutes.
Right.
No. Oh, my God.
I don't know how to get out of this thing.
How to get rid of it?
Yeah.
I don't know. You do something.
Oh God.
You'll be fun. You'll be
I've
good.
just discovered the sad truth that I have no cool pictures saved on my computer. I scrolled through everything I had. The coolest thing
That's
I
a
had
lot of penises.
was the Buccaneers logo where they replaced it with Tom Brady's face.
Oh,
No.
sorry.
That won't work here because you have to see this face.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys a question, because normally we get together at Crime Con. That didn't happen this year. We don't even know if it's going to happen in October. We hope, right? But state of the world, it's all a mystery. So one of the things I would have done if I ran into you guys would be, what have you guys been up to? Now, I know, Nick, you were recently part of a case that you helped break.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the captain and I covered a case. The victim's name was Barbara Blatnick. It's a case from northeastern Ohio from the late 80s. And this young woman, she was 17 years old, and she was out doing what most 17-year-olds do. She was out running around with her friends at night. And there's a few different stories of people who believe that they were the last one to see her that night. But sadly, the next morning, she is found clear on the other side of town over by a place called Blossom Music Center, which is, you take some rural roads to get to the music center. And she was found there that morning. She was still barely alive when she was found, but unable to speak. And she passed very quickly before EMT could even really arrive on the scene. That case sat here cold for all of those years. And it was just, well, about 10 days ago that we caught a break. And through DNA and genealogy, we've tracked down the killer of Barbara Blatnick. And we did that with, I'm involved in a group called Porchlight, Project Porchlight. And it's with James Renner. He's the president of our board, and he asked me to be on the board with him a couple of years ago. And this was the first case that we selected. One that I'm pretty proud of because I was pretty vocal in the meetings to select this case. And
he actually went into the meeting with a like a megaphone, screaming at everybody.
That's
so
passion. That's what we need, though.
You will listen to me. I have the megaphone.
You need that passion, though, right, Captain?
Yes.
Yes. You need intensities.
That's why we get involved in these cases. Is we get into them.
Hey, Nick, how many people are involved with that organization?
It's grown since we first started. We started back in April of 2019. And so that's a pretty good success rate. I mean, I couldn't be more happy than that. We're about a year,
One for one
here, and we've already, we got lucky along the way, but we got some other people, some really good companies involved as well. There was a company called Identifiers, who we hired to be the DNA genealogy investigators for us, and they were able to track down this guy. This guy had no record, no police record at all. He was not on anyone's radar. He was not considered a suspect as far as the newspapers go, not considered a suspect as far as police go. So very likely that, and you guys know better than most, that's why a lot of these cases do go cold, because there's real, this is one of those situations. There's no real link between the perpetrator and the victim.
Yeah.
And it was only through this technology and through this type of investigation that we were able to finally find her killer, and some of her family's still around. So that is really good news for them. And we were really glad that we could help them with that. But that's my really long answer to saying, Justin, that I believe we started with about 8 people, and I think we're at 12 now. So we're just a tiny little tribe.
Well, just to chime in just a little bit, you do so much with your partner on your show. You know, you guys do so much with each other that the fact that he was able to go off and do something without me and be successful doing it. And it was one of those things when the news hit me, I felt like a proud papa.
Aw.
You know, like I got a little emotional. So that was really cool for on my end.
That's cool.
One little weird twist to this case, and it may have nothing to do with the case at all, could just be it would be a big coincidence. But the captain and I were talking about this on Monday. So the guy that is now arrested, and he did offer up his DNA to the Cuyahoga Police Department. But he's not talking about the case at all. He's not admitting to anything. He's not saying that he knew her or anything like that. So his name is James Zastanik. And because I'm probably saying that wrong, I'll spell his last name. It's Zastawnik, if anybody wants to look him up. But when the picture of this guy was shown to Barbie's sister, she goes, yeah, I have no clue who he is. That's not a name that I recognize. That's not a face that I recognize, not a family name that I recognize. But a weird thing here too is he's got a missing brother that's on the Charlie Project
Site.
Yeah, so
So he probably killed his brother.
Well, who knows? I mean, but it's
It's like shades of Ed Gein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some people in the chat asking how they can get involved with that. So be sure to post a link or information out on your social media or something.
I'm sure a lot of people would love to get involved.
Yeah. There was another question if any of us had ever considered getting into law enforcement. And being that I was a horrible skate punk growing up and then got into IT, that was all I knew. And I should never be in law enforcement because I would just steal all the money and the drugs and sell it. So I'm good.
You said it. You said it. We didn't even have to go there.
There's
You
a
guys
question
ever-
about what we're drinking.
Oh yeah.
Hey, so when are we starting the intervention?
Well, we have to know what we're drinking before we have an intervention.
I'm drinking the hard stuff, Canada
Oh,
Dry.
wow.
This is I don't know how it'll show up. It's Kraken and Coke. That's what it is.
And I know for a fact he can drink because it was, I think, 6 a.m. last time me and Aaron stopped drinking.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and that lady kept on yelling at us.
She was.
She was like yelling at us, like she's like, you two with your white privilege.
Yes,
And she
absolutely.
was,
I
was a
remember
white-
it very well.
and she was a white girl. It's so strange.
Yeah, I know who she is. She can get like that. And all we
Well,
were
maybe
doing
you
was
shouldn't bring her to the party. Don't bring her to the
No.
party.
She got upset because we were talking about cars. That's it.
Cars?
Yes. I
God
was talking
forbid.
about I'm a Mustang guy. I have a Mustang.
Yeah,
And the captain and I were talking about sports cars. That's it.
that was it.
And it triggered her.
Triggered. We should have
It's freaking
had a
cars.
warning, a trigger warning that we're going to talk about cars.
Oh, yeah. Cars happen.
Anyway, I have another question. One of the cases, and we haven't covered it on Generation Y, but one of the cases that's really got my attention and has for quite a while now is the Delphi murders. You guys have covered it at least 2 or 3 times now, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you just had an update or something. What do you guys think about it as it stands now? Because it seems like the public's been given so much conflicting information.
Well, we think it's interesting now that the big question for the last 3 years has been, is there DNA? And that's really been confirmed lately that there is DNA. We don't know if there's a mixture or how big the sample is or what they have, but we know that there's DNA. My personal speculation is that they've had this DNA for a while, and maybe they are doing some kind of genealogy type Parabon Nanolabs test. And like Nick will tell you, those tests sometimes take a lot of time. I think the Golden State Killer test took over 2 years. So if that's the case, then why, if you're doing those tests, don't come out and confirm it until you're getting closer. So if they have that DNA, they've been testing it, and that means they're getting closer to getting results.
So my general understanding of the way that these things work, and I've spoke to a lot of people, some, be it Parabon Nanolabs, be it identifiers, people who have worked with other companies, people that have worked with the FBI. What I have learned along the way, that when you do this type of investigation, it's about a 50-50 shot of coming up with anything. And yes, the captain's absolutely right. It can take quite a while. We had a case here in Columbus that was actually solved in Delaware County just a few weeks ago. And they had said that they did more than 18 months of this DNA genealogy investigation before they came to, and what that led them to was a family tree. It doesn't, it's not this magic machine that spits out a name and a telephone number and says, here's your guy. So it's about a 50-50 shot, and that's for the majority, for Caucasian people. When you start talking about anybody, minorities, it drops your percentage chance of finding the family tree, just because there's less to compare it to. There's less ways to track it.
And where do you guys stand on the genealogy part? Because most of my siblings have actually sent their DNA in, and so they're in databases. I have not, but I thought about it just because I believe so much in trying to help solve crimes, despite any privacy concerns I have.
Well, I'm with you. I love empowering our law enforcement, and I really don't care about anybody's privacy when it comes down to someone was killed. I mean, we're talking about a child killer walking amongst us. We're talking about somebody who's capable of horrible, despicable acts. I get the privacy thing, and I get that it's being politicized a little bit, and I understand it. I'm just on the side of the fence that says, no, we need as many tools in our tool belt as we can against these horrible, evil people that I don't want walking amongst us. So I'm for it. I too have not sent in mine. I've been telling myself for months that I'm going to, but there are some states now that are running into some issues with some of these things. And there are some companies that are pulling back and saying, hey, we don't want to work with law enforcement because we're afraid of what the future might bring.
Yeah. What do you think, Captain?
Well, personally, I've been wiping my DNA on things and mailing it to people. So hopefully it gets there eventually.
So some people might have a postcard from the garage that has your DNA on it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You ordered a shirt, you got some DNA.
And bring it with you to CrimeCon so you can get it signed too.
Oh my God.
Bring your DNA for signings.
Because this genetic signature you can't see, right? Unless you have a black light.
Well, it depends on what I was drinking that day.
Yeah. Somebody asked if we've ever come to different conclusions on a case, and that actually sparked a situation that happened where Aaron and I were researching and about to release the I forgot the name of the turnpike or whatever, but the documentary was There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane. And I remember you guys released your episode, literally dropped it the day or day before that Aaron and I were supposed to record. And I was like, oh shit.
You should have just did it though.
We did it. We did it because it's like we can't turn around and do 40 hours of research and drop another episode. It's like the train's left the station. I will say though that we recorded ours and then I listened to yours, and we did cover it in different ways. Mm-hmm. You guys were very straightforward with your storytelling, whereas I felt, at least Aaron, he came out and said, I think she did this intentionally. I think she started drinking to get the nerve to do it. And that's, I don't know if you guys agreed with Aaron on that, or if that was one of the cases where we didn't agree or came to different conclusions.
Well, but I think, I mean, you guys have this. I mean, you cover so many cases that sometimes your opinion of a case that you covered 2 years ago changes.
Yeah.
The more you learn, or you have a new case that kind of is similar to an old case, and that makes you view it in different ways. But I thought the question was like, because I know like your JFK episode.
Let's hear it, Captain. What'd you think about that one?
I don't know what episode number that is, but I hope you guys delete it.
It's not up.
It's not
okay. Good, because it's garbage. It's the worst episode you guys ever done.
So
hold on a second, Captain.
I think wait, hold on. I think I listened to it was like a Bigfoot episode or something like that that you guys did, and I was like, oh, this is so good. And it was like real late at night, drinking by myself, and I was like, oh, let me listen to this JFK one. Oh, I was screaming in my garage. These guys are idiots. I'll never listen to them again.
I have a couple notes for you. So because we did the Diane Schuler episode so close to one another, that's actually how we ended up talking.
Yes.
And the other thing, you mentioned that sometimes over time you cover a case and it almost gives you a different perspective on an older case. We covered a case recently that's not out yet, and it should be out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But it actually made me reconsider some things with the Jean Bonnet case.
Oh, did you listen to our episodes and figure out you guys are probably wrong on that case too?
No, I actually spoke with you at length about that before.
I don't. We you know how many shots we were doing?
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Bob Ruff had a drinking contest that night. Bob went to bed, so I won, but I really lost because I ended up drinking with you, and whatever we were drinking was not affecting you the way it was affecting me.
Yeah.
I was hammered. I mean, it was awful.
Well, if I was drinking alone or maybe just with you, then maybe that would happen. But if I'm in a social atmosphere, it's almost like it doesn't do anything to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I thought he had like a iron liver or something.
So I got to know, how long had you been listening to us before the JFK, and then did you stop listening after the JFK?
I would always just cherry pick. I'd have 2 or 3 podcasts that I'd listen to every episode, and I would cherry pick episodes, and then I'd actually talk. Me and Nick would talk about cases. He'd say, "Hey, I checked out this Generation Y episode. Check it out and let me know what you think." And then we'd spend like 3 hours on the phone talking about it. Then we're like, and then eventually he's like, "We should do a true crime show," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about all that."
Mm-hmm.
But what made you change your thoughts on the John Benet Ramsey case?
I'm a parent, so there was something that we covered recently that gave me a different perspective on the parents, rather than forgetting some of the details and all of that, not getting lost in the evidence, because the evidence, there's so much to try and wade through, but just a perspective as a parent. And so we covered a case that should be out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's an international case. It's from another country. But yeah, I just told Justin, and it's probably on the recording. I told him, I said, this makes me kind of look at the Jean Bonnet case in just a little bit different light now.
Yeah, this idea that, and there's a really good movie, kind of a creepy movie, if you want to go back, called The Good Son, with Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin, and
it's a great movie.
And the idea that you would pick one kid over the other kid, just certain things like that don't make a lot of sense. Like,
well, it's like Sophie's Choice kind of deal.
Well, look, and we're not medical experts, So, and we don't know what they know about medical situations. So if you came upon a child that was even lifeless, your first reaction still would be to call 911. And the idea that these parents would sit there and make all these decisions and also say, well, let's not call 911, let's not try to get her any help, and we're going to save our son. That somehow this is going to save our son. There's no guarantee that this cover up that you're doing is going to save your son. And what we do have is we have evidence that he did hit her with an object in the face, right? And we saw what happened to him. Little to nothing. And so that would be the evidence that the parents would have that if he did something worse to his sister, that he still possibly wouldn't have been charged with anything. They still probably would have kept it in-house. That case still to this day, I mean, I'm glad that we had a chance to dive into it as deep as we did, but there's like 3 or 4 cases that it seems like I keep going back to because I haven't fully grasped all my thoughts on those cases myself.
Right. And that's when I spoke with you at least twice about this case. It was really cool to talk about it with you because you weren't locked in. It was almost like you were telling me, don't get locked in because there's so much here. And depending on what you're looking at, and you keep going, every time I've talked to you, you keep going back to for yourself, like, why would they decide to do it this way? I mean, this is a child. It's not like they're going to throw him in prison. So why are they making decisions as if they don't do this, their little boy is going to get taken away?
Well, yeah. And for like 2 or 3 years, because of the CBS documentary, I basically was like, oh, well, what they said goes. Jim Clemente must know what he's talking about, but he obviously doesn't. And at least not in this case. And the fact of the matter is you have all this forensic evidence that proves that she was strangled, viciously strangled. That happens while she is breathing because she has defensive wounds on her neck. And so this idea that he whacked her on the head and, with some flashlight and then they covered it all up. Again, as a parent, just contemplate the idea that you're going to make a noose and strangle your daughter. Why? Why? And while she's breathing, it doesn't add up. But as I say this, then 3 days later, I'll be looking into something that makes them look guilty. So
yeah. And that's something that I would like to say is, people will listen to one of our episodes from, I don't know, 5 years ago, hear something we say, and then be like, damn you assholes, you said this. And it's like, maybe I don't even agree with that anymore. I mean, 5 years has passed, but it's always so fresh in people's minds, and they never really understand that it's just something that, is an opinion we might have handed out years and years ago, or said something about a case which now we have new information about, and it's all changed, and it's
I think you guys, because you guys were so early to the party,
yeah,
it was kind of expected to we need your opinion. And I think with a lot of our cases, when we get to the end of the road and we go, I don't know.
Yeah.
We've been okay with just saying, we don't know, our gut feeling might tell us one thing or the other.
But everyone wants you to be like, this is what happened and I can prove it. No one wants to say, I don't know, it might be this.
Well, we had a friend of ours that does documentaries. She said the problem with us ever doing a documentary is we don't have a agenda. Yeah. Our agenda is just to try to figure out what the truth is.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is there's been a lot of cases that have been covered, extensively in the media that are just not factually correct. I mean, look, Jim Clemente is not a bad guy. There is a reason that he went on a show and knowingly put out information that was false. There's a reason for that. I don't know if that is for some status or that's the producers making edits or what it is. But it's like, even like the West Memphis 3 case. I mean, our good friend Bob Ruff put out another docu-series on that. There's been 20 different episodes on that with like Dateline and 48 Hours and all these specials. And most of the information is wrong. It's not correct. It's a lot of speculation.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes us not so good with us making a documentary, is because we don't have an agenda. We don't have some agenda to go, hey, look, we got you,
Yeah.
We're pointing the finger at this guy because, I don't know if we should do that,
Well, a lot of the information was wrong that was presented at the trial too. So why should it stop there? We should just keep talking about it and presenting the wrong information for decades. But before we go too far along, I do want to say Jim Clemente did really good work on the DC sniper case, actual FBI work on the DC sniper case, not as some kind of TV personality. So I do want to give him a big shout out there. That was a difficult case. Regarding Diane Schuler, I heard your guys' episode and I thought it was fantastic. And what was great about it too, you speak about having a difference of opinions. What was weird, I thought really we shared the same opinion of, maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought we shared the same opinion of kind of the how, a little bit kind of the how and who is responsible, but where we varied was the intent.
That's it.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really interesting take and a very smart take from you, Aaron. And I thought you guys did. I actually, when I listened to your guys' show, I thought, and not that it's a competition or anything, but I thought, damn, they did it better than we did.
Well, let me thank you very much. I was heavily influenced at the time because, like anyone else, I get to reading on certain subjects, and there was a meme around that time about women and about how much stuff they manage in any given day. And I started to thinking about it, and I thought, how much was on her shoulders around that time, plus the stress in her relationship?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
It kind of looked like a situation where she was getting a really raw deal. The husband was like, I mean, could you be more absent than that dude?
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well just not even be there. And it looked like, to me, the only thing I can come up with is that she snapped. That it at some point it was too much. And even him at the press conference, all he can do is he's like, yeah, I'm down there putting the boat together, doing what I got to do. It's like, Jesus, man, like you got people that don't even know your family that are mourning this more than you seem to be. And I know that we all handle these things different, and who knows, maybe he just shut down emotionally. I don't know, but it just seemed weird. The whole thing just seemed strange. And
Nick, I want you to talk in that accent for the rest of the duration of the stream.
Do what I gotta do,
Yeah, don't tempt him. Don't tempt him.
And I grab my junk when I talk.
Speaking of accents, we're going to be covering another case that involves Sheriff Boutwell, the Texas Ranger guy. And I can't help but sound like him when I start talking to Justin on the phone. It's really bad.
That's like with West Memphis 3, though. Like you just start getting into that. Those boys are guilty and they deserve to burn in hell.
Living. Well, the other accent on there that drives me nuts is the Baldwin's mother, Jocelyn. And when Jocelyn was in prison, can I get a Jason from you?
Yeah, Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Old Jocelyn.
I had a weird question for you guys. Has there ever been a sponsor that you've turned down or refused to have?
We stopped doing like psychic stuff.
And that was really, the listeners kind of, they were unhappy with that. Not that we chose them. They were just kind of put on our show. And
we had no money coming in at the time. So we're like, sure. Well,
that's a tough call.
Yeah.
It actually wasn't even really anything that we put much thought into, like the captain saying, we didn't have many sponsors, and it was just somebody that that they brought to us, and we didn't put a lot of thought into it, and it was the listeners reacted, and we listened, and we said, all right, we agree. You know,
Yeah, well,
if you guys ain't down with it, we're not down with it. So,
we understand that it's a profession that sometimes can, cater to desperate people,
Yeah.
and so they can take advantage of people. But when we initially said yes, it was just because I was like, oh, well, I think that stuff's fun. Like I do tarot, I go to tarot readings and stuff just for fun. Or if I'm at a festival or carnival and it has fortune teller, I'll go in the tent, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but the psychic thing rubs me the wrong way and the tarot thing doesn't. But we turned down the psychic thing, and I don't blame you for not, because if I remember correctly, they were one of the highest paying sponsors I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They were.
Well, I think the thing for us was they wanted to be on our show, and it was like, oh, that's really cool. Instead of just, hey, we got you a new sponsor, it was like, these guys want to be on your show. And then also, I think even with cases, I mean, detectives talk to psychics, detectives might get tarot readings. Does it work? I don't know, but I think it can give you other options or maybe other ideas that you never thought of.
I actually refused to do any kind of alcoholic ads, but weirdly enough, when the pandemic hit, the only new ad we were offered at that time was Bud Light Seltzer. And I was
Yes.
like, shit. It's probably going to be the only new sponsor we get for months. Okay.
Never say never, because you
I
just
know.
might, Justin.
I just never wanted to. I mean, it's not that I'm against alcohol. I mean, obviously I've drank with you guys, whatever, but it's not something that I wanted to promote on the show.
Our whole show promotes alcohol.
Oh, I know.
So, and they don't pay us for that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many beers have you promoted now, Captain?
Well, I mean, it would have been 200 and some different beers.
Damn.
Yeah. And not a dime, right?
Not a dime.
Not even a hoodie in the mail.
I mean, we get free. Sometimes we'll get free beer sent to us,
Yeah.
which is really nice. And then beer companies are learning, hey, if we send them our beer, they'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Probably got a warehouse now full of that stuff.
Nick's collection is getting pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
that is our rule, though. If you send us beer, but there is some stipulations in there. Like you have to send us stuff that's been sealed properly. Like I don't want something that's been made in somebody's bathtub. But if you send us something,
I'll take it. I'll take it.
That is legit. Like here's one that we got recently that I'm drinking. This thing is legit. This is from Tactical Brewing Company. But anyway, if you send us something,
they just paid him $500 to say that.
That's Tactical Brewing Company.
What's their website?
The stipulation is that you send us more than one kind, so we can actually sample them and pick our favorite amongst the group.
Yeah.
Because I don't like every single beer. So if you send me something and it's bad, and that's the only thing I got to choose from, it ain't making it on the show.
Well, what's sad though is a lot of people will say, I listened to your last episode, Captain, and you sounded drunk. And some episodes I don't even drink on. It's just
when you came on my Peripheral podcast, a lot of people asked me, like, was he drunk? And I said no. I go, that's just the way he sounds.
That's just the way he talks.
That's just the way he talks. So
yeah, I once had a kid tell me my senior year, he said, you say some smart stuff, but you always sound like you're on drugs. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's the way it is. Yeah. So
tell him not to make fun of your accent.
Yeah.
Someone's asking about what our favorite drinks are, favorite beer.
How about we start with you, Aaron? What's your favorite beer?
It's still Obsidian Stout.
Justin?
Obsidian Stout. I became allergic to beer about 5 years ago, which that's messed up. But when I did drink beer, it was between Newcastle and, I know this is going to be weird because I loved Shinerbach, but it had a really bitter aftertaste. So I was really into Michelob Amberbach because it tasted exactly like Shinerbach, but it didn't have that horrible finish. But Newcastle was always my go-to.
Yeah, mine was Newcastle or Guinness. Those two.
Nick?
So my favorite that I can't get a hold of is Would Somebody Like to Hold My Clipboard by Hoof Hearted. They're a little bit north of Delaware County here.
He's getting paid to say this.
Their beer is hard to find, even though they brew it here in Ohio. But the one that I can get my hands on pretty regularly that would be my favorite is it's called Sparkle Puff. Yes, and it's by Flying Monkey Brewing Company.
Oh, Flying Monkey.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's 10.2% ABV. It's a triple IPA, and it's got a black cat with wings shooting laser beams out of its eyes on the can.
I want the T-shirt now.
No, I want the tattoo.
If I drink 3 of them, I can shoot laser beams from my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check the website. I'm gonna tell them Nick sent me.
And my favorite non-alcoholic is just any kind of sparkling water. I know that's gross. Somebody asked about our non-alcoholic drinks.
Oh, favorite non-alcoholic is definitely tap water.
Yeah.
Really?
That's what I drink most of the time. Just straight out of the tap, no ice, anything. Just
Dr. Pepper. I love a good Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Pepsi or iced tea?
Yeah,
Ice- Yeah.
or if you can give me crushed ice with lemonade, that's pretty good too.
We're getting a lot of love, guys, for our Madison Reed and Third Love ads, by
Mm.
the way.
Would you like me to read a spot?
No.
I think that we're probably
It's the
their
most
favorite
comfortable fitting
podcast.
brawl.
What's your Madison Reed one? Treat yourself.
Treat yourself to Madison Reed.
Love it.
Get your hair did with Madison Reed. Third Love is great
Yeah.
because I'm like, my mom loves the brawl. It's not awkward at all. My sister says it's the best brawl ever.
I just remember when we first got Third Love, we were trying to get our wives to do it and stuff, and I was just like, at least my wife, she's like, I don't want my voice heard on your show, whatever. And I was just like, screw it, I'll just do it. And apparently I was like a trailblazer, like a man reading bra ads. And from that point forward, anytime I go to like a podcast fest or something, and somebody be like, well, what do you do? Or something. And I'm like, well, I sit in my basement and I read bra ads. Like, that's my job.
You've paved the way for the rest of us,
Yes.
Justin. We appreciate it.
Took one for the team, I guess.
Yeah, if it wasn't for you, it'd be nowhere.
I know. We wouldn't have Third Love. What's your average listener breakdown between male and female? Typically, it's 80% female and 20% male.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, yeah.
Well, I had this girl one time I went on a date with, and her whole thing the whole night was giving me facts about serial killers. And
that's a keeper.
Well, no, it's like it was like her whole thing was like, I'm going to really impress you with my knowledge. And most of the stuff she was wrong about. And then she kept on bringing up cases and then having no clue what she was talking about. And then she's like, it must be refreshing for you to hear a female's viewpoint on true crime, because, most women aren't into true crime. And I kept on thinking 85% of our listeners are female. Like but I think she probably got into true crime about 20 years ago when the idea was that it was a male dominated thing. But I don't think it was ever been male dominated, other than maybe the authors.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never been male dominated.
Yeah, so it was a very awkward date because it was like I knew what she was trying to get to. Like, look how unique I am. I'm like, when I go to Crime Con,
Right.
that's all I'm hanging out with is these. And what's awesome though is like when you get to meet these listeners that have ideas on cases, or they, you know, some of them are just like, oh, I love when you cover this, or I love that, but a lot of them want to talk to you about a case, and next thing you know, you're like 2 hours into like a heated debate, and but it's fun.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And it ends with you yelling, "You're wrong. You don't know anything. Leave me alone." Right?
Yeah. I just started screaming, look, I think Donnie did it. Donnie did it. And they should let the guy go free. That's all you have to say.
Maggie asked, I wonder why women like true crime more. And I have an answer, at least my own opinion, not an answer, but my own thoughts on that. And I think it's because men don't feel threatened when they walk to their car in a parking lot.
Speak for yourself.
But I mean, men will watch a show like Survivor Man, or something where it's like man versus nature or disasters, because that's one of the things that we think we can relate to somehow. Like, oh my God, nature, you know, some snake's going to kill me or elements are going to kill me.
Yeah.
Whereas I think women can relate more to, yeah, your husband can just kill you, or yeah, you can just be walking from the grocery store to your car and be abducted. Whereas men don't have that same mindset. That's why I think women are into true crime more than men, but that's just one element of it. There's a lot more opinions and a lot more puzzle solving, and there's a lot more elements to it, but that's my general observation on it.
But I also think too, with men, we have a lot of things to be into. NBA,
Yeah,
wrestling, football,
yeah,
MMA. There's a lot of different things that you can be into hobby wise. And I just think, especially lately, I think the last 5 years, people are going, well, podcasting can be one of my hobbies. As far as, you know, I'm going to, I'll download Joe Rogan and see how this goes. And I think when females have done that, they've gravitated towards true crime shows.
yeah.
We had another question about naming suspects on episodes, and I don't know how you guys handle it, but I know on ours, we just try to be mindful that, you know, look at what happened to Jim Clemente. I mean, if you say something a certain way, you could have a lawsuit. Also, you don't really want to jump in with both feet unless you're really, really certain.
I hope they're not in the chat, because I forgot who asked me this the other day, but somebody said, hey, I'm doing a podcast. It's a cold case, and there's a person that's the suspect. That person is dead. Can I name them or accuse them? And I said, does anyone else think they're a suspect? And she goes, yeah, they're family. And I was like, well, just say their family thinks he's the suspect. I'm like, you don't have to say it. You can just use other people's opinion to tell.
Yeah, you just say, yeah, I don't know about this guy, but his mom thinks he did it.
Yeah. You can, you know.
I don't know. To me, I don't have an issue with that. And also, I mean, Jim Clemente didn't get sued. NBC got sued, or CBS got sued.
His company got sued, though, I thought.
I think he's
part of a company.
He would be protected under because whoever produced it, it's just like when you write a book, the author can be protected, and then the publishing company will take the heat. But maybe he
felt the heat. I'll say that.
Yeah, because any good lawyer will tell you, if you have a lawsuit, you know, if you're driving down the street and somebody causes you to wreck your car into a telephone pole, then you sue the driver of the other vehicle, you sue the telephone company, you sue the city for the road, you sue everybody that you can, is what they'll tell you to do. So Clemente probably felt the heat, and that kind of stinks. You know, my feeling on this has always been like, if somebody's been named elsewhere as a suspect, and we're not the first to name them, then we're kind of echoing what somebody else has already said, and a lot of times these people have been named publicly. We have a big catalog. If you go back through, I'm sure you could find a couple people that were not named publicly that the captain and I came up with on our own, and that was at our own discretion. And usually our deciding factor on that is if somebody's not been named publicly elsewhere, then if they got like a police record and they're just seem to be a pretty bad person, we're pretty fine with naming them. Or saying that it's somebody that should be considered. We're not the judge and jury, obviously.
Yeah, but there's been a couple times on the show where Nick just starts saying like, and I would bet the house on this, or he goes really hard on somebody, and I start sweating.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
oh God.
That woman up in Cleveland, I'm pretty convinced that her lawyer killed her, and I said that on the show over and over again. I went on a long rant for a good 40 minutes about it, but my feeling is, take me to court for slander. It's only slander if it's not true, and if you can prove that it's not true, then all right.
Yeah, good for
I'll give
you.
you my Madison Reed money.
No,
You're sweating because you're wearing a hoodie, Captain. Is it cold there?
it's freezing in my house. Yes.
Damn.
I wanted to touch on something that was weird though, because I'm trying to sit back and let you fine gentlemen talk. But on the topic of women and true crime, one thing that I just find fascinating is that Anne Rule, the late great Anne Rule, who is one of the great true crime authors of all time, and she was forced to write under a male name, under a man's name early in her career, because she was told, as talented as she is, she was told nobody will buy your books if they know that it's written by a woman. So she wrote under the name Andy Stack. And of course she proved everybody wrong. That where Justin is paving the way for males to read bra commercials, and Rule paved the way for female true crime authors.
What's ridiculous about this? This is one of those old ideas that are just not just outdated, but wrong. I mean, Stephen King got upset by a woman author, right? J.K. Rowling. Did I say her name right?
Yeah.
Who's reading these books? Do you think the men are reading these books?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what's funny. Like, of course, fast forward, it's 2020 and everybody thinks differently and more intelligently. But it just carries through to all walks of life. It doesn't. Yeah. I don't think gender really plays a role in anything. It just doesn't hold weight for me.
If it's good, it's good. Doesn't matter if a man wrote it, if a woman wrote it.
Well, we have ladies calling college football games now.
Yeah.
Which is it's a bit of a shock to the ears, not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just, there's a first time for everything, and anything new is gonna tip the scale a bit. But, and then you see ladies refereeing football games, and it just doesn't hold any.
Or coaching football,
Yeah. It's only a matter of time before everything's 50-50, and it should be. Like Justin said, if it's good, it's good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if I had any other questions for you guys. Everyone keeps saying. I have a question. Oh yeah, go ahead.
This gets asked all the time, but I'm seeing it in the chat again. Will we do another collaboration?
No, never.
Never again.
Never.
Whether it's an episode or on the road.
Or one of these.
Well, we talked about doing a live event. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Like having you guys come. It'd be cool to have you guys come to Columbus and do one here, and then maybe go, because you guys are in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And so do one in Kansas City and do one here, and just have a night with the Generation Garage.
Yeah.
Garage why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True crime why?
We just have no idea what's going to happen with this pandemic. So it's kind of hard to look ahead and say, oh yeah, we're definitely doing this when we don't know when things will open up or what the new normal will be. We don't know if it'll be like it used to be or if there'll be new rules in effect.
Yeah.
Well, and like you guys were saying, like there's just shows with some that don't have ads on them, and that's normally not the case. So we feel the effect a little bit, but we are very fortunate where other people are losing their businesses and losing their jobs, and so anything, that I think that's one of the. We've actually done some really good shows lately, but I think it's because of that, because we realize how lucky we are, and how much people need escape from reality, even though we're talking about reality.
Yeah.
But I'm we're very fortunate. I would hate to be in a different situation, and
But even more than that, Captain, we enjoy what we do.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
Why do you keep saying stuff that's negative about Nick here?
that had nothing to do with Nick.
Oh, I can read between the lines.
I like his part. He does a good job.
Now
That
you're
being
hating on
said,
yourself.
Aaron, I would love to do another show with you.
Oh, okay. See, he's already picking his co-host.
No, the best is I'll go, hey Justin, are you ready? Yeah, let me get my notes. Like the first line he said was wrong. It was like, I think you mean this. Oh yeah, sorry. Hold on then. Sorry. I went, oh, this is gonna go great.
Yeah.
If I'm correcting his notes, this is bad.
You should see my notes. They're just chaos.
That's pretty much what mine are. That's why sometimes I'm like, I'm trying to find the person's name on my notes, and I can't find it. So I'm like, the guy. I sound like Joe Biden. The guy, my boss, my old boss. You know who I'm talking about. Something Obama.
Yeah, I'll totally do another crossover, but we got to do a conspiracy theory, because that just pisses off all the nut jobs, Captain. So I love it. But the sad thing is Aaron has to deal with all the social media idiots that come out and say things about so
So okay, so the next show that we do, are we going to switch up host?
What do you mean? Oh, me, Nick?
Yeah, because it's been me and you both times.
Yeah. We could
I
do
don't know.
that.
Let's ask the audience. Let's see a poll over here.
Yeah, let's
Start
get a
sounding
poll.
off. Survey says
I just keep me with Justin. It'll probably go better. We've already done three episodes total together.
It's always easier when you've had practice.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever works.
Well, but I think the last time we were on your feed, right?
Yeah, we switched feeds. but
yeah.
we
So if we
switched
did it again,
hosts.
we'd have to flip
Yeah.
back the other
Yeah.
way.
We wouldn't have to.
Yeah, we would.
I just want to do a conspiracy again or a Bigfoot one,
Yeah.
You can do anything you want, man.
Yeah.
but we can't put that on our feed because it's not true.
It's really not.
Nick,
For some
Nick,
people, it is.
Nick wanted to do a case one time that I think it was like an urban legend or something like that. And he was really into this idea. And it was a really bad idea. But I kept on yelling at him, going, our show is called True Crime Garage, not maybe this happened, but we're not for sure garage. Yeah. You remember that case?
Which one?
I remember exactly what you're talking about, but the idea was we would do different segments during the course of the show, and one of the segments would be which is the real life case.
Oh, right.
And I would read two cases to you. One would be an
Ah.
urban legend. One
Yeah,
would
yeah.
be a real life case. Right now, there's somebody in the audience writing this great idea down.
Mhm.
About 6 weeks from now, they'll have a show.
And you'll be angry.
It was just, I was just looking to, we were still early and trying to come up with some different segments along the way. When we first started this out, we had a lot of different ideas of, the show wouldn't be the same so much every week, and we've kind of really settled into what works for us and works for our audience, and so it's been great ever since then. But
Yeah, we had an idea for a while that there would be like different segments, and like that it would be like a true and false with the captain, and we'd have the little segment music in between, and
Like a variety show.
yeah,
like a bonus episode that you could put out on, for bonus
well,
material.
He definitely had some, and we do some of that stuff on off the record now. Like we'll do top fives of like random stuff, like top 5 Metallica songs, top 5 AC/DC songs, stuff that have nothing to do with crime.
Well, top 5 Metallica's anything pre the Black Album, so that's my
Well, every loser has an opinion. You just have to smile when you say anything shitty. Well, any moron can have a thought.
Yes. I'm a metalhead, and after that, they just turned into alternative rock. That's all I'm saying.
You know what, Justin? When I was a kid, I hated the song "Wherever I May Roam."
Yeah.
Because it was just on MTV all the time. It was one of the later singles off of the Black Album, and I think the captain will back me up on this, or correct me if I'm wrong. I think our local rock stations just played it. It was like it had to be in the rotation every 25 minutes or something.
Yeah, every 5 songs.
But then, like 15 years later, it's now
not
one
a
of
bad
my
song.
favorite. It's one of my favorite Metallica songs, and I hated it back then. Hated it.
Dude, I hated 90s music during the 90s. I did not like Red Hot Nirvana Jam. I just wasn't into it.
Right.
And now when I hear that, I'm like, oh, thank God. They're playing something good.
Well, someone mentioned the Smiths in the chat. So.
Yeah.
I really miss the idea of bands. Like no, seriously. Like again, I was never a big like Nirvana fan, but it's like now when somebody comes out, it's like, oh, you like that one guy that plays with nobody else. Like there's not a lot of bands where like back in the 90s there was Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and there was and it was about the collective, and I miss that aspect of music.
Yeah.
What was kind of cool about that time too, and even before that, was people had their favorite person in the band, and it necessarily wasn't always the front man. There were fans of the lead guitar player or the drummer, and that was always cool to have those discussions with people when you found other people that liked similar bands to you, and the conversation goes a little deeper.
Yeah, or the same token, like I was never a big Guns N' Roses fan, but wow, Slash's solos. I mean, you might listen to I would listen to a Guns N' Roses song because I waited for the solo and just be like, oh man, that's amazing. And it's I miss the collaborative thing, which kind of wraps up what we're talking about, because I think one of the things that has made both of our shows successful is the collaborative effort between the partnership. It's like the peanut butter and jelly, and I think that's what makes
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we always get compared. Our shows always get compared, and everybody says, well, Aaron and Nick are the straight shooters, very, fact point by point, and Justin and the captain are the color commentary, the guys that jump in and just go off the rails, and I think you need that balance sometimes, because it just helps keep things, I don't know, changing and interesting,
Well, yeah, and I prefer when we don't agree on everything, because I feel like I learn more from that. Whether I was right on something or wrong on something, like I feel like, or even just Nick challenging me on something might make me go back and look at things differently.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know how anybody does a show by themselves, especially true crime or even when you guys talk about Bigfoot or supernatural or cryptozoology or anything, like any of those topics where there's
Sasquatch.
there's not a definitive answer for
When you talk about the Sasquatch.
So
Slint is great.
yeah, and then I hear people try to do true crime shows with just a single host or hostess, and it turns into, in the long run, it turns into an interview show because I don't think you can do it. Like it seems you need that back and forth. You need somebody to bounce ideas off of. You need somebody to steer you right or steer you wrong. But that's if not, every one of these things would be a 15-minute book report.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been strange. What are your guys' thoughts on the fact that there's like 3,000 true crime shows now?
There's always room for one more, but holy shit, if we would have started now, I don't think anyone would listen to us.
Same with us.
No.
Yeah, starting earlier definitely helps. And I don't know, it's just weird because we look back on it now and we think about the first shows that we were around through, because we started in 2012, and then in 2014 and 15 and 13 we had like Thinking Sideways, we had True Crime Garage, we had some other shows that we're on good terms with, but it's like we've gotten to know all of them and we're all pretty good friends. So as more and more shows come up, they'll write in and say, what should I be doing, this or that? And it's just like, admit it, you would probably still listen to us if you didn't have your own show, but now you have your own show and so
You don't
much
have to-
work goes into
Yeah, you don't have time to
working
listen to
on
us
it.
anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to tell people other than, yeah, it's a crowded space. Good luck trying to find your audience, but if you want to do it, do it. And that's all I can say.
I tell everybody, because like a lot of my friends, after things started taking off, said, "Oh, I've always had an idea for a podcast," and I had an idea for a bass player podcast years before me and Nick talked about doing anything, and so I sat down and did it, and by the third episode, I was like, "This isn't fun," So it's like my first thing is just I tell people, don't take it so serious, and record a couple episodes. You don't need to go make it Instagram. You don't need to make a Twitter. Just sit down and record, even with your phone, 2 or 3 episodes, and just see if you liked it. And maybe you like the fact that you got to dive into these cases more. Maybe you hated it, or I mean, I can't stand to listen to myself talk. I can't stand it, so but just try it, and then also be realistic on if it doesn't get traction. If it doesn't get traction, then ask yourself, is this taken away? Because here's what I don't like. Sometimes it's taken away from people's families and time that they could pursue other things.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just not realistic with the idea that it's not going anywhere, So come up with some kind of numbers, come up with some kind of thought process, and keep checking back. If it's not making any money, are you having fun with it? Are you learning anything from it?
Yeah.
And it's okay to make 4 or 5 episodes and go, okay, well, that's it. I don't want to do it anymore.
People keep bringing up the solo podcasts, the solo host podcasts, and I'll be honest, of the ones I listen to, and I don't get to listen very often, but once a month I'll take a Monday and I'll download some true crime episodes, and virtually all of them are single host, and I think they might all be women hosted podcasts too. So I don't know. I don't have a problem with it, but I do know.
Oh, I don't have a
doing
problem
the show
with it. It seems difficult to me, is what I was trying to express.
But it's the passion. People are very interested in these subjects and they have things to say. But I know what you said, to your point, doing the show with Justin, it's so enjoyable to bounce ideas off while we're doing the show. And sometimes we don't even know what the other one's going to say. So either one of us goes silent, or then we start a little debate, or we get a conversation going about it. So just for my own selfish reasons, I do like having a co-host.
Yeah, there is one that, and I cannot think of the name, so I apologize, but it's it's a true crime, and somebody in the audience will know what I'm talking about. But it's a true crime show, and the host it's a lady host, and she's out of Michigan. And I'll listen to her
Already
once
gone?
in a while. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
Nina.
Nina. Yeah.
yeah. I'll listen to her once in a while, and that's a single host, and her show's very good. I For me, I feel like it would be difficult, and I don't say that just because I've been doing it, the captain and I, for so long together. I just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me as far as our preparation for the show and our production and stuff like that.
I've been trying to get him to not, like I just won't talk anymore since episode 7, I think. And he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to talk."
Yeah,
Aw.
people are asking if we listen to certain podcasts, and yes, I have heard Canadian true crime
And Nefarious New York. Hey, how you doing, Emma?
Well, with true crime, and maybe we can go around the room real quick, but like with true crime, I cherry pick.
Yeah.
So if I see on social media somebody did some good work, I'll go listen to it. Recently I listened to the series Down the Hill, just because I'm fascinated about that case. Maybe go and listen to one of your guys' episodes. You guys know how it is. You just don't have enough time to be religious about your listening anymore. And the last, it's like sometimes the last thing I want to do is, after 3 or 4 days of reading about this, I don't want to go
Listen to
go listen to it. So I'll jump onto either. I'm a huge fan of like This American Life.
Yeah.
And enjoy. I love these little short stories.
Yeah,
Aaron,
John,
how about you?
did you ever hear the episode about the father that wanted to take his newborn child around the block, essentially? I think it might have been in New York. And he and his wife had a real, they were butting heads over it. And then at some point in the episode, you find out that he is blind. He is completely blind.
All right, yeah, and so because she didn't think it would be safe.
I
And
think
then-
it's a powerful episode because it goes beyond just oh, this wouldn't be safe. It goes to the, like, how much do you trust me
Right.
with our child? Why is this going to hold me back? It's a powerful episode.
Well, I have a couple friends that listen to This American Life, and we text each other about it, and it's almost. I'll text, "Have you listened this week?" And they say no, and I go, "They choked me up again." I mean, almost every episode makes me cry.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a sissy, but
Aw. Nick.
so yeah.
Nick.
Well, I'm good. I won't bore everybody because for me, true crime, like, I love diving down deep and getting really all, eyeballs deep in the muck of everything and really just falling in love with the case and the research of it. And so listening to other true crime podcasts is a little scary for me because I'm afraid that I'm going to fall in love with whatever case they're discussing, and I'll find myself cheating on the research that I'm supposed to be doing for next week's case and really diving into this other case that's not even on our list at the time. So if I want a true crime fix, I find mine in books most of the time. Or I will listen to True Murder, which is Dan Zupansky's show. He interviews a different true crime author each week. I hate to say this for the true crime authors out there, because the captain talks about cherry picking. That's why I listen to Dan's show, because it really helps me decide whose book do I want to buy. And then sometimes Dan does such a good job with the interview itself, I feel like I've read the book by the end of the hour-long interview.
Absolutely.
So I get a lot of bang for my buck that way. But truly what I listen to the most as far as podcasts go, I listen to a lot of sports podcasts, and it's because really now that the captain and I and you guys, we do true crime as a job, true crime's no longer an escape for me. And really, the only thing that really shuts off the outside world to me now is listening to sports or watching sports. That I can totally disappear for 2 hours or 3 hours if a ball game's on.
Or he can get really drunk. Really drunk. If he gets really drunk, here's how I know when he's really drunk. He'll send me pictures of like sports stuff.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, post this on our social media. That's when I know he's drunk. Hey, post this Tampa Bay thing on our social media.
Oh, I've definitely done that. And just for this, you're going to get I'll send you a picture later of
Tom Brady.
Diamond Dallas Page doing the diamond cutter to somebody, dropping the diamond cutter on someone.
Well, a question for you guys, like when you guys are in between like takes and in between recording, do you guys talk about the case or
A little bit, yeah.
Sometimes.
because sometimes if there's a debate or we found something interesting, we'll talk about it. But a lot of times we'll talk about sports or we talk a lot about the Howard Stern show.
We talk a lot about songs too, because we tend to both show up to the garage with some dumb song stuck in.
No, no. I show
Old
up
Town
with a
Road?
song.
No, we both do. The problem is often when I leave the garage, his dumb song is stuck in my head by the time I leave.
Yeah, because we'll be recording ads or something,
I
and
keep my song to myself.
yeah, in between every take, I'm singing the song.
Yeah.
He's poisoning you.
Well, I kept on singing the day I tried to live, or the day Soundgarden.
Right. It was.
That was the song, right? The day
I
tried to live.
Yeah, you
Here
were.
we go.
Saying,
Down.
Impromptu song. Here, go ahead.
Oh,
Take
it's
the
it was so bad. I just kept on thinking like that's like that guy can sing so high. Chris Cornell was such a gem.
Did he sing the song for the Casino Royale movie, the Bond movie?
I think so.
That's
don't
the only
know.
way I would know him. I think he might have done that song.
You don't know who Soundgarden is?
I do.
Sorry, no.
Wow. I now trust nothing this guy says.
Yeah, you
yeah,
should, I guess.
he had Soundgarden in his head this last week, and I had Busta Rhymes, "Give Me Some More."
Yeah, he kept on going, give me some more.
Give me some more.
Give me some more. Like out of nowhere. I'm like, what are you doing? I thought maybe the beat of the song was like triggering him to sing that, but
No, it was 'cause I had it. It was weird because I had it stuck in my head when I arrived, and then you were doing the read for, "Hey, if you find yourself wanting some more True Crime Garage, download the Stitcher app." And I was like, yeah, "Give me some more.
give me some more. Cars in the Big Creek.
Give me
Give
some
me
more."
some more. So that kept on happening. So then I kept listening back to the beat this week going, that couldn't be what was triggering Busta Rhymes.
It was one of those strange coincidences.
That's hilarious.
Cars
right.
in the Big Crib.
Give me some more. All right, so you guys have asked several questions. Are we allowed to keep going, or
Yeah.
Yes, until we run out of time. Go ahead.
we? When do we run out of time?
Yeah.
Like
what's
10
that?
minutes, like 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I think
Alright.
we have about 10, 15 minutes max left, maybe. I'm
How
not sure.
How many episodes have you guys done? What number are you guys on by this point?
I don't know.
Something, maybe 4.
Would it?
If you count every episode we ever actually recorded together,
Because you have a bunch of
it's-
bonus shows.
if forgetting the bonus content, we have over 370.
Damn.
Oh, but with bonus.
Oh,
Over
I
400.
don't, that would be probably 500.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot.
Because we're almost at 500.
Yeah. That
Would it
we'd
be too
at-
difficult to ask you what your favorite episode was? And it doesn't have to be true crime, because I know.
And it could be it
of
could
our
be
own episodes or
Of
of somebody
your own-
else's.
Of your own episode. Yeah.
no, only of ours. Only of ours.
That'd be weird.
No, just of our show. Tell us what
Oh.
you like about us.
I will tell you the first episode of your guys' that I listened to were the bank robbers that took off in like an RV and were like in a camping ground trailer park years ago.
Was that the Texas 7?
Yes.
They
I
escaped
think
from
so.
prison.
Yeah.
Now, when you heard our show, because you guys started before us,
Yeah.
did you think, shit, this guy's a better version of me? This captain is a better version. Is that what you thought?
Absolutely, Captain.
I'm just
Actually, that's what I think every time I show up to the garage.
yeah.
Shit. Why did I even bother? Why did I even bother?
Shit. I should just let this guy talk.
Yeah.
Somebody asked when we started Generation Y. It was 2012. When did you guys start True Crime Garage?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your other question, Nick? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it was your favorite. What was your favorite episode of your show?
Generation Y episode.
Um,
I know that's difficult because you probably have a different one each day. If somebody
Yeah.
were to ask you tomorrow, it would change, and you have different ones that you like for different reasons. But
yeah.
it's too late because you've been thinking about it for too long. But I was going to say, what would be the boom? What popped into your head right then?
Aaron, what popped in your head?
Well, lately I've been saying Ariel Castro, and that was an episode that I struggled to name because I didn't really like putting his name on there, but I couldn't think of any other way to name it at the time. And he's just, to me, one of the biggest pieces of garbage out there. Not only that, but he really felt like he could torture these women and break them. And in the end, he found out all too well that he never broke them. And yeah, in the end, he took the coward's way out because he had nowhere else to go.
Yeah, and that was a crazy story it's a crazy true crime story anyway, to take these young girls captive, keep them in your apartment forever. He even had guests come over from time to time, and then they make this escape. He kills himself before he can go to trial. It doesn't even seem like it's something real, but what was incredible, that was Northeast Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. The amount of healing that happened almost instantaneously in that community was amazing. Like it was incredible to see that portion of it play out. I mean, we're talking, these three families thought that these girls were long gone.
The thing that really gets to me, though, is people visit his house and he has doors that are padlocked. So in the future, if anyone's in a house
Right.
and there are
If they're
multiple doors that are padlocked
and they're playing
that,
music all the time. It's just,
please let someone know.
oh my God.
Because
So Justin, which episode is your favorite?
Okay, I'm trying to make this quick. I really don't like covering serial killers anymore because it's just a trail of dead bodies and horrible stories. I don't even really like just covering straight up murders or people wiping out their families. I like some sort of hook, some sort of mystery, something that just is wackadoodle. So when I came across the case of Abraham Shakespeare, Aaron saw how much passion I had for this. And Abraham Shakespeare was a homeless guy who won the lottery and won like $30 million. And then, he was a very generous guy, he was super sweet guy, he was giving everybody money. And then this lady comes along and says, I'll help you manage your money, murders him, takes on his identity. When his mom calls, she has other men like answer the phone and act like him and stuff. And it's just this crazy screwed up story. So that's kind of one of my favorites, is just because it's not your typical thing. It's a very, just wackadoodle story. That and like Pam Hupp, just the real weird ones with a hook.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so
what do we do now?
one last question for you guys. Do you have a case that either was one that you covered recently that you want to mention that's really sticking with you, or do you have a case that you have not covered that is really on your radar but you haven't covered it yet?
Gave Nick a list of how big do you think that list was?
Several pages, yeah.
Yeah, well, I got really hooked for like a couple weeks of just like diving into a case just a little bit, just reading a little bit, just enough to go, oh, that's good. I need to look into that one more. And I think I came up with about 70 different cases. But I mean, there's just a few that always stick with me that I can't shake. I can't shake the disappearance of Brian Schaefer. I can't shake the disappearance of Mara Murray. I can't shake the West Memphis Three. I can't shake John Benet Ramsey. And those are big cases. Those are popular cases. But those also get you in trouble.
Yeah.
As far as like, you can spend so much time and find this minutia and these details that you probably don't even need. But they've just sucked me in.
The thing that's been on my mind a lot lately, and we got a couple cases coming up that we're going to cover that are similar to some old ones that we covered, in a sense that these are kind of one-time events, but they're just horrible. They're just tragic. And they may have started off to just be a robbery and turn out to be where several people ended up losing their lives that day. And yet we're still left with this mystery years later. We covered a case that's often referred to as the Burger Chef case or the Burger Chef Murders.
Yeah.
That was one of our first cases that we covered. And we covered another one called the Lane Bryant shootings. And one that I would like to cover again that we have done before, and I thought we did a great job before, it's just such a big case, is the Yogurt Shop murders. That one is always kind of there for me, and I'd like to cover it again. But we do have a couple coming up that would be similar to, in a sense, where somebody goes into an establishment likely looking to just make an armed robbery, and it gets sideways real quick.
Yeah.
And also, before we go, if anyone has any questions, just keep in mind that you're about 30 seconds behind us. So we'll just wait for a few questions to come in. People are saying they've asked questions, but there's so many.
Yeah, there's a lot of
being
questions
typed in there that
it's I'm trying to scroll back, but it's just flying past, so it's hard. But yeah, I actually there aren't any unsolved cases or missing persons cases that have really stuck with me. It's just more injustices or wrongful convictions, or hopefully trying to see some sort of resolution to things, but there's not one that sticks with me really.
People are asking about why Maura Murray, that case is so divisive. I think there are a number of cases like that become it's almost like the public owns that case. And so when you express opinions on it, people get very, very up in arms because you said something they don't like. Isn't that how you'd look at it?
Yeah, possibly. But I also think one of the issues is a lot of the source material coming from that case was from the beginning is speculation. So it's not, there's not facts. And it's just little things that extremely bug me about that case. Like initially we have eyewitnesses saying that there's a possibly another person out there smoking. And then the internet decides that there was no person out there smoking, that it had to be some cell phone light or some other nonsense. It's like, okay, so the internet just decided that there just wasn't another person there. Congratulations, but that's not how it works. And when I've showed that information and showed those eyewitness reports to retired detectives, retired sheriffs, they all say the same thing. who's the person smoking? And then just to go over them, well, the internet has came up with different theories, and so we don't believe there was anybody smoking.
Yeah.
These detectives look at you like you're the biggest idiot in the world. Oh, one of them actually looked at me one of the times and said, "Oh, the internet decided that there was no other person there. Well, then the internet can solve this stupid case." So I think, there's just so much misinformation with that case. And the family is trying to correct some of that. And it's tough for the family too, because I think Fred had an idea of how he should go about things, and you have to follow your gut. That's your daughter missing.
We have some quick questions.
Mhm.
Do you think the Evansdale case and the Delphi case, do you think they're involved or related?
Well, I could see why one would think that. I mean, there are some strong similarities. It's not terribly great distance between the two. We also have a distance of 5 years between the two cases. Um, I don't put any weight at all into the date. A lot of people want to play the numbers game, and I know that movies and TV shows would love to tell us that serial killers and murderers love numbers. They don't. The probability of going out on that day because of those numbers and finding two female victims who are under the age, the probability just gets weird at some point where you just go, that doesn't seem likely. What is strange though is there in each of those cities there's a meat packing plant. So like that's one thing that's similar that I have a hard time just kind of pushing away.
So you don't buy like the whole idea of like anniversaries and things like that, like killing.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it doesn't happen that way most of the time. And when I look at a lot of these cases, especially when we talk about serial offenders, I like to play the numbers game.
Right.
And I'm talking about playing the numbers game, but not the numbers. But yeah, I like to look at
not dates.
right. What have we seen? How do we know from the history of what we do know? So, and just how does it apply to this? I would say that it's not impossible, but I would put the probability at pretty low, and mainly because it's a 5-year span between the two cases.
Yeah.
People are asking if we watch any true crime shows, ones we don't miss. I tend to favor Dateline 2020, the classic shows, Forensic Files.
Whenever I'm in a hotel, I just put on Forensic Files or Dateline, whatever is on the marathon.
Right,
I just throw that on and sit there and watch that.
I love the good, the multi-part documentaries. I love those, but I've become a sucker for the Dateline episodes.
Yeah.
Because the amount of information that they tell you is not much at all. And after every commercial break, they repeat themselves, but they still hook me every time. I'm like, oh man,
there's like
who did it?
There's like
It's
less than
Mankey.
10 minutes of actual content for an hour-long show.
Yeah, I'm like, and the best is they mention a guy like, and Michael was a friend of Susan's. And then they get away from Michael. And then at the end of the episode, they're like, and then they found a cigarette butt. And that was Michael's. Remember that guy that we mentioned in the first minute, but we never talked about for the last 50 minutes?
Yeah.
It was Michael. And then what happened? He pled guilty, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, it sometimes with that type of show, you feel like you almost feel bad for them though. Like, did they arrive in town and think that something was something it was not, and then they have to create a story to expand it out? Dateline 2020, those ones are good.
48 hours.
48 hours. Those ones are good. I tend to enjoy my type of cases. I don't love the husband killed wife. Husband was cheating on wife, killed wife. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like that is so many cases out there. So
Yeah.
I really like Cold Case Files on Netflix. I
Mhm.
like the older cases. I
Yeah.
always have. The older cases fascinate me, and why the cases go cold, and then how they end up getting solved. And that one's got Danny Glover narrating, who his voice is just perfect. I mean,
Sexy.
What a
I
great-
just saw those episodes this year, Nick,
yeah.
and
No,
there's some in there that were fantastic.
you know what? I got to give you guys some kudos too here, because one of my favorite true crime shows was Once Upon a Crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you boys were on there a couple times.
Yeah.
I loved, because again, I love the older cases, and that's
Yeah.
what they always cover, the older cases. And I watched that show every damn week, and then all of a
Yes.
sudden I'm watching it, and you guys pop up on the screen. I'm like, whoa.
Let me ruin some of the magic for you on that. I was reading the book in cold blood, just cramming it for like
Mhm.
3 days before I went to New York to do it. And I get there and I get on the set. I didn't sleep a wink that night. And I'm in this enclosed room with 15 people, camera crew, and all this stuff. And they're like, all right, talk. And I'm like, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, do you want us to start feeding you lines? And I'm like, yeah. I'm just like, just feed them to me, because at this point, like, I can't even put a thought together. And it turned out good. I was worried that I was gonna bomb, but I just did, and plus, even when I was talking off the cuff, they were like, hey, can we say it this way? And I'm like, okay, just feed me the lines how you want it said. And that's why when you see a lot of those shows, a lot of the guests they have on are finishing each other's sentences or saying similar things, because they're just reading off a script and having you repeat it back. So
Even
sorry.
though even though it was not a great experience for
No,
you.
it was a great
good
learning experience. Yeah, but yeah.
I tell you what, I think that show is of a very high standard. I believe
It is.
They, great quality, good storytelling. I like the way they do everything. So I think it was very cool that you guys were on there.
It's
Yeah.
a crime to remember.
Yeah,
A crime
so
to
they-
remember. Thank you.
If anybody hasn't seen it yet,
Yeah.
I was on 2 episodes, and Justin was on he got the biggest case the following season after mine. So
yeah.
it was pretty cool.
Yeah, Nick one time told me that he was doing this local case. It was going to be like I think he said like community access type thing. And then like a week before it aired, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be on the ID channel." And for the Lake Erie murders. Have you guys seen those yet?
No.
If you get a chance, the one that Nick's on is a 3-parter, and they talk about the Amy Mihalovic case. It's really good. Nick looks like Alf, though. Remember,
People are asking
Thank
real
you
quick.
for saying
People are
that.
asking what our favorite horror film was. Well, they're asking Justin, but
favorite horror film.
I'm a huge horror fan. That's my
What's
thing.
your favorite, Aaron?
horror or
That's so
horror?
difficult. If we talk about
Scary
horror
movie.
films, from the last, like, if we say the last 10 years, I'll just say The Witch. But if we
Yeah.
go back further, I have other ones too.
Yeah. Geez, I have so many. I always loved The Exorcist. I really love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Geez, I don't even know anymore. I would have to give you like a top 5 or top 10. I couldn't just name one.
What about Nick?
If I'll take the easy way out. I'll go with the series. I like the Halloween.
Yeah,
Series.
Halloween's great.
What about the last one that they made? That was supposed to be the new part 2.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it.
And what helped it along too for me was I saw it in the movie theater, and I was sitting next to these 2 older ladies, and I could tell, I was kind of listening in on their conversation before the movie started. They like go every week together to these movies, and the one lady, I heard her telling the other one, like, I don't like scary movies. I don't do good at scary movies. I can't believe you picked this one this week. That woman was so nervous and scared the entire movie. It made the experience even better for me. Like, I felt like I was in the movie at some point, because her jumping and noise making made me jump a little bit. I like with any horror flick, especially like the slasher type, you're going to have some of your cheese ball, your cornball moments, and it certainly had those. But that scene where he goes into the restroom, I don't know, can't remember if it was at a truck stop or a gas station or whatever. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he gets his coveralls there.
And
Yeah.
is that where he's killing the podcaster?
He's killing somebody in the stall. I know
I
that.
think he's killing a podcaster in the stall. That's why I was rooting.
People do not like podcasters. I'm
No,
telling you.
no.
I was
him.
watching Rick and Morty, and they were totally just trashing on podcasters throughout the episode.
So if you could get rid of one podcaster in the world,
Oh God.
which podcaster would it be?
And that was it. How did everyone enjoy the show?
Thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, Evil Dead is that was my first favorite horror film of all.
Yeah.
That was my first love when it came to horror. films.
Evil Dead 2 is actually probably one of my all-time favorite horror movies because they did
Those are
different
good,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
And people bring up The Shining. I just recently watched it in 4K. They released a 4K version, and it looked fantastic. It's still a great movie.
Yeah.
So I used to many years ago. This would be back when I was in my early 20s. Actually, I think at the time I was 21, and I was doing third shift security in this big high rise downtown. And we usually had a team of 3 of us. So I sat and I watched The Shining before I went into my third shift security position at this
Oh
high-rise
God.
building. The other 2 guys called off that night. So now I'm flying solo, and I finished the movie as I'm walking out the door to go to. Things got a little weird when I'm doing my rounds at about 3-4 in the morning after having The Shining in my head,
Yeah.
and being in that big giant building all by myself. Or was I?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a horror movie, but when I watched Ready Player One, and then there's the whole sequence about The Shining in there, I was
Yeah.
loving it. It was so nostalgic.
And for those who are upset that I didn't listen to Soundgarden, I also haven't watched Ready Player One.
Oh my God. Fuck.
It's not a horror film, so
You know what's funny is most people do these for their listeners and to like maybe even gain some listeners, but you guys do it to lose listeners.
I think so. It must be that. I could wing it and
Soundgarden,
say-
never heard of them.
I could just say Soundgarden.
Jeopardy,
awesome, but
never seen it.
Oh, somebody,
Wheel of Fortune, nope.
So somebody even said like, "Hey guys, show the chief some respect," and I was like,
I must have missed that message.
Football.
Well, we are coming up close to the end
Okay.
time here, but
Pat
I do want
Mahomes.
to thank
is
you
the
guys
man,
for
by the
coming
way.
on. And before I forget, I had technical assistance from John Lorden,
Yes.
LordenArts.com, Brain Scratch.
Yes,
So shout out to
yes.
John Lorden. And
Now, wait, hold on. You want to talk about a go-to as far as true crime? Brain
Yeah.
Scratch is a go-to because
Exactly.
on YouTube.
I love it. I think I really think John is amazing.
I will
and
start listening or watching Brain Scratch before I go research just to get an overview of the case because I know he will tell it to me in the perfect, understandable way.
sometimes I won't watch him because if I do watch him, then I'm like my standards of what we're going to do are too high. So no, I just think he's great and
God.
he's been awesome to talk with during Crime Con. So I'm so glad that you brought him up.
And for anyone asking, yes, we're going to be doing this again soon. We'll have another guest next week, but we definitely wanted to start with the Garage guys because they're great, and we go back a ways. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and sorry we didn't get to every question.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we do love you all. Thank you so much for your support.
Yep.
See you guys later. Be safe.